Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Teen Talks. I'm going to be your host for today. My name is Sierra. My pronouns are she, her, and I will be hosting today's episode. And today we will be doing online school. But before we get to this topic, I'm just going to give you guys a little background. So, first of all, welcome to Teen Talks. Teen Talks stems from the idea teen thoughts, which is for our audience. If you don't know, it's a teen-centered show where you guys can share your thoughts, your ideas, and whatever goes on your head. This is going to be a comfortable discussion for teens to share their opinions in a nice, comfortable space. So now let's move on to the rules real quick. We will be using Zoom, and of course in Zoom, no slurs, hate speech, or offensive manner. Respect everyone's opinions because everyone's opinions are valid, and try not to talk over everyone. If you both want to jump in, of course it's going to be like, whoa, so just figure out who wants to speak first and then speak next. So without further ado, on to it. Episode 2 is online school, and I'm going to be asking your guys' first question for this discussion. So since we're dealing with online school now, how was your transition from in-person school to online school? What did you find hard about it? Was it a lot easier to do things online, vice versa?
I can go. It was definitely like really quick, I think. And at first it was like, oh, this is only temporary. So it was kind of like a thing that like this was gonna go away, but it didn't go away. And I think like I do music, so a lot of the music thing had to kind of like I do for band, it had to kind of just stop, and so there's no in-person music thing. It was kind of just using we had to like take videos of ourselves back in March, and then now we've kind of like progressed into like using more software. But I think it was especially hard for like people who didn't have like good internet. And like I noticed in a lot of the classes, half the class wouldn't even show up. So I think that was a struggle. So when the new school year started, it was definitely a bit more students. People got computers, but not a lot of schools get those kinds of resources.
Yeah, I think I had like a similar experience. I think especially with like the way that the classes were structured, both the teachers and the students were kind of like it was kind of like unknown territory. So I personally had like a hard time. I guess I don't know if it was hard because I feel like the classes just weren't like I wasn't learning as much information as I should have been because the teachers didn't know how to structure information and there were internet issues. For some reason, my school made the classes like 45 minutes. So it was like with all of the technological issues, we ended up not doing basically anything in class. Like you could skip class. I would sleep through a lot of my classes just because I would just like do it in bed. And then I would end up having to do like I'd finish the school day, then I'd have to do like another whole school day of work afterwards because I felt like the classes you just weren't learning that much in. So yeah.
I'm kind of with Zoe. It was like at first I was like, oh, this is gonna go away. So it is what it is. It's just something we'd have to do temporarily. But as like I guess the pandemic started to like sink in, I guess, that's when I realized like, okay, this is probably gonna be something that's gonna go on for a while. So it was kind of hard for me because I would never really did homeschool. I always was like an in-person student. So from like that transition to like online school, it was really hard at first. But then after a while, like once you get a routine, it becomes easier. And also like what Nia said, I felt like I wasn't learning anything. Like even now, like in my economics class, I feel like I'm not learning anything. Like I'm not learning jack right now. And I'm not gonna lie, I've low key been on the internet like cheating because of it, and it's probably bad, but it's just like I feel like I'm not learning anything. They just send me stuff to do and then I just work on it. So
That is completely true because I'm not in this class, but I have this one group of friends and they're all in this English teacher's class and they all cheat and she just automatically thinks that everyone's cheating in the class. So online school, it's kind of like touch and go because back when last year, it was still 2020, we had this terrible school site. It was called, I don't want to drop names. No, sorry. But basically, it was just so easy to find the answers. You would type in the exact question, Quizlet would pop up, or I don't know what other site, like some quiz site. It didn't really make school feel like school. It it was like we're all in this like club together, but it just wasn't school. It didn't feel that way. So then back to this question. I know you guys have already kind of put your opinions in, but do you feel like with certain classes, maybe like AP or honors, do you feel like learning it online is a lot harder now because you don't have the material in person?
I would say yeah. I do. I do IB. I do the IB program, and part of me thought that it would be easier because it's about, like, when you're getting to the second year, it's supposed to be, it's like a lot of individual work. So it's a lot of like you writing your essays and just like writing a bunch of stuff. So I was like, okay, well maybe having this time will be nice because I'll be able to like focus on myself. But like Cydni was saying, I'm a very in-person learner, and it's really hard for me to like find structure for myself outside of like the school day. Like even when I was in school, I would structure my entire day and like all the work I needed to do around like the school day. Like I would try to stay after school with the teacher. I would work during lunchtime. I'd work during break. Any free periods I had, I would like do work during then. And that like school was when I was like productive. So I tried to make the most out of my school day because that's when it was like easier for me to focus. But then like at home, I found it so much harder to like coordinate those times with my teachers and to have just someone there to like kind of hold me accountable to like doing my work and all of that stuff. So yeah, and just learning the information as well. Also, I think that because the teachers, it's hard for the teachers to give us the information in the best way possible because they're all used to teaching in person. So when it changed online, like especially in like my biology class, like there was just too much to cover in a class period with all of the technological difficulties. So I felt like we like in terms of content, I ended up being really behind as well.
So you also lost like your productivity.
Yeah.
It was harder to get motivated.
Yes.
Mm.
Much harder. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel you on that because I'm taking two AP classes right now. I'm taking AP Music Theory and I'm taking AP English. And AP Music Theory is already as hard as it is in person, so imagine doing that online. And it was just really hard. And one thing that I did like was my teacher, he tried to get us to do Zoom calls every day because he wanted us to understand the material because he's that type of teacher like I don't want to fail you guys. I need y'all to understand it. But it was hard for him because he's such an in-person teacher. I'm sorry. And like he wanted us to come back to school so bad, but it's just like I'm not gonna risk my life to be here. But it's like at the same time I want to because it was just hard. And I'm kind of struggling in that class as well. I don't know how I'm passing, but I'm struggling in that class. And then as far as AP English, I took the class already my junior year, so I kind of know how it's gonna go. But at the same time, it's still kind of hard because you have to learn new strategies on how to write papers and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's just a lot harder online.
Yeah, just to add on to the whole, I mean, it's hard online, and I think that everybody learns in different ways, and with online school, it kind of just narrows that way of like, this is how I'm going to give you stuff, and it almost, for some classes, it kind of becomes sort of like a transactional thing. Like, I'm going to give you information, you're going to consume it, and then you're going to regurgitate it out on like a test, which people probably cheat on because it's online. And so I think that it's really hard to do like relationship building with your teachers and your classmates, like when you're collaborating on, like when you're at your desk and you're like with other people. I feel like learning can kind of be like a social thing, and it's hard to kind of do that when you're online. And sometimes when like everybody has their cameras off, it kind of just feels like you're in an empty room. And so it's just hard to learn when you don't see other people wanting to learn, I think.
From the looks of it, it kind of makes it feel like you guys are talking about how like you like start all over. Like it's kind of like a rewind that we've gone through where like we're adjusting to like completely new things. And it's hard to work it out, especially with APs, with teachers who are different types of teachers and students which are different types of learners. Because I know a lot of people are like visual learners or like they're auditory learners, or they just need to do the work to get it done. So what category do you guys fall into? Or do you fall into all of them?
I'm an auditory learner, so I like listening and I also like speaking. And also like what Zoe was saying about like the even just like the small things where like the learning kind of rebounds off of the other students. I feel like that was so important to like a classroom that is just completely gone when you're like in virtual learning. Cause like it's that like classroom engagement that is like, you're supposed to be learning in a class. It's not, like you could just watch YouTube videos if you were doing like virtual school, but like it's like the questions that your classmates will ask, and then you can have like conversations, and that's like I think what makes like school interesting in any sense. If there's like an interesting class, it's usually like that where it's a little bit more conversation based, I think. And I think when it's virtual, it's like a complete absence of that, and it is like they will give you the information, they'll give you the materials you need, and then you kind of have to go and do your own thing. And if there's problems with the audio, if there are problems with anything, then you're kind of stuck and nobody's talking. It's hard for me to really ask my questions or like be vocal, which is how I learn. Like I'll have like conversations with the teacher, but I'll just feel so awkward in like a Zoom class if nobody else is talking and I turn my mic on, so then I'm quiet and then I feel like I'm not learning and then I end up not understanding anything. So it's just so much harder. Yeah.
I honestly feel you on that because I'm an auditory and visual learner. I think I'm all three, to be honest, because I don't know. But I honestly feel you on that because I'm so scared to ask questions in the Zoom calls because everyone, all the classmates are usually like quiet and they're not talking and they look like they just don't care. But then when you turn your mic on, they just all look at you weird, like, why are you asking a question? Just shut up and like get off. And it's just like I'm trying to understand what's going on. And that's what I miss about being in person is because I usually always go to my teachers if I have a question about something because I'm not just gonna sit there and just let myself not know anything. Cause I really I really take school seriously. So with being in virtual school and without that dynamic of talking to your teacher and you get like a straight up answer, it's hard. And then now you have to kind of resort to YouTube videos. You kind of have to replay videos over and over again because some of my teachers send me instructional videos, but even then I still have to explain some stuff to myself. And it just gets really like difficult sometimes. And that's kind of what I miss about being in person is being able to have like that one-on-one conversation with the teacher.
Yeah, for like the way I learn, a lot of it is like being able to communicate with people, whether that's like my classmates or the teacher, and it's hard to do that when I guess everything is like on screen and you're like seeing everything and you're like it's just different. It's hard not being able to see someone in like all three dimensions. So, yeah, and I think just like I definitely learn through what Nia was talking about, like that classroom engagement where people are asking questions and people are asking questions about those questions, and it kind of builds into a discussion. I think I learn a lot from like when people are discussing. And so I missed a lot of those things. And I think that, I don't know, we kind of do that in breakout rooms, but also most people don't want to be in breakout rooms. So people like sometimes have their camera off or they don't even like acknowledge that they're in the breakout room. So maybe it's just like 5 people, but only 2 people are talking. And so it's just kind of hard to like do that like back and forth conversation type thing.
From the way you guys explain it, are you all guys forced to keep your cameras on?
Yes, I'm forced to keep my camera on because I think if I don't turn mine on, then I get marked absent. So yeah, I'm pretty much forced to keep my camera on because that's like our school guidelines. There was like, turn your cameras on or we're gonna mark you absent. We need to know that you're here, whatnot. So yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's basically the same thing for our school. I mean, it's not required, but what I notice is when it's not required, people just don't turn it on. So, um, yeah, I end up being like a person who has their camera on and then everybody else doesn't. So it's a little bit awkward, but I feel like you just get used to it a little bit. But yeah.
My school's in person now, actually, but when we were on virtual, it wouldn't most people wouldn't have their cameras on, and I don't think a lot of the thing we used didn't even have cameras, or if it did, we would have to turn it off because like the Wi-Fi wouldn't work if we had our cameras on. So it was very kind of like absence. But if I was allowed to, then I would turn it on.
All I know is that thankfully in a school. I don't have to keep my camera on. It's like at one point one of my teachers was like, "Oh, come on, like I just need to see someone's face, like that connection, because we miss that." And I was like, "Oh, I'll turn my camera on." I was like, "For extra credit though." And she's like, "Okay, fine." And I was like, "Hi, how you doing?" It feels like such a hassle because it's like communicating with people, but it's mandatory. And there are teachers, and it's so hard because you don't even get to know the new people, because school is one of the best ways to build relationships with new people. You get put in a class with a person you probably have never met before, and you're like, "Oh, you need help?" Yeah. And then you just find other interests that you guys would like, and then friendships just stem from that. And it's kind of hard because with these classes there's people you already know, and you're like, "Oh, we're on online together, so we'll text each other if we need anything." Like there's no need to find new connections online, and it kind of takes away that point of like meeting new people, because I know that's a big way for people to do that. You guys have any feelings? I mean, like, how do you feel your human connections with like your classmates have been?
I definitely miss that human connection because as I'm an ambivert, so I have introvert qualities and extrovert qualities. So I do oftentimes miss that connection with my classmates because now I just feel like we're just existing at this point, and there's just no connection with any of my classmates. Like even like we don't have to be like the best of pals or anything, like just simple acquaintances, like just help each other with their work type thing. That's the like, I miss that. As simple as it was like just nice having like, someone like, if you need help, I'm here. If I need help, you here. And now we just don't have that anymore. And like, yeah, every now and then I'll like text like one of my close friends, like, hey, do you understand this? Do you understand that? But even then it just feels so like I don't know how to explain it. It just, I don't know. I just miss it. So
Yeah, I had like the same like experience because I was new like last year. So I was there for like I had known these people for like 6 months, which seems like a long time, but then when it's like when you're like distanced from all of those people when you don't really know them that well, I felt super like isolated. Like I felt like I guess after like at first it was kind of like where you could text people and there would be a big group chat, but after like a while, after like a month or a few weeks, then it just becomes so much harder to like reach out and be like, hey, and the distance just grows. And then now being back in person, I've seen how like, because at first I was like, oh well, maybe it's me, maybe it's not the distance learning, I don't know what it is, why is it so hard to talk to these people. But then when you're back in person, it really is so much easier to like have those connections, even when you are wearing masks and 6 feet apart, when it's in person rather than like through a computer screen.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't really have any like friends who are in my main classes. And so just kind of like reaching out is definitely harder because usually like you would meet the person and then you'd get to know each other and then you'd like do the whole like communicating thing, but then you like go to like your Google Classroom, see who's in your class and like who do I kind of know, and then be like, okay, I'm gonna text them. But yeah, I think it's a lot more. You have to put, I guess, more effort into reaching out, and also we have like our school changed the policy for like reaching out to teachers. You have to like email them, or like set up like a Zoom time, and I feel like before we had like drop in hours where anybody could just drop in, but now you have to like plan it out and you have to collaborate with your teachers, so I guess it's kind of more intentional in that way. And I'm not sure if that's like helpful or if it's just like harder to get help, and I think I relied on like other people to get help, so I kind of like, I guess I'm trying to like figure out how to like do it by myself and like try to figure out the content by myself. But it's really hard because like I think Nia mentioned this before, it just like feels like an extended work week. Like I've built an emotional connection to my computer because I spend so much time with it, and like it'll be like 11 p.m. and I'm like I haven't really like gone up from this chair at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, what Zoe was saying about having to like put the extra effort in to like just like communicate with people. That has been like that was really hard like when I was doing virtual school because I hate emailing people. Like it makes me so nervous thinking about like sending an email to my teachers or like messaging someone. Like it makes me like it's just so much easier for me to like talk to someone because it's just like well like because then it's too late by the time you go and like are up to them. Then you have to say something. But like when you're sending an email, there's so much more thought that goes into it. So it was like it just like putting it like having it be so like set like oh you have to email them if you have a question, you have to know exactly what it is you want to say because it's just like you don't get that back and forth. That was yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you because when I like send emails to my teachers, I overthink it way too much. I'd be like, "Good afternoon." How like and I try to make my question as specific as possible and I'm like, "Okay, does this make sense? Okay, what else do I have to put?" And it's just like I put way too much thought into it whereas like if I do it in person, it's a lot easier because you're right in front of them and you don't have to overthink it too much. You just say what you have to say and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was gonna add on to say that sometimes teachers' inboxes are getting flooded, so they don't have time to like get to your question, especially if it's like a time issued question. So, like, I don't know, like I'll talk to my Spanish teacher, and then she'll respond like a few days later after the question is like it doesn't matter anymore because it's too late. So
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. Like it's always like when you ask the question, it's usually to the like either to the point where it's like you're already super confused, or it's like where it's like like it's like because you're not gonna ask like any random question that you'd have because you know that like the teacher's inboxes are full. So you like it's just like more work trying to like figure everything out for yourself. And then also like the classroom that goes back to I think the classroom engagement we were talking about before, when like the questions can bounce off of each other and one other person's question can answer your question, but now the teachers are kind of having to like tutor every single student individually, which must be so much harder.
I think it's safe to say that online school itself is such a journey, not just for the students, but for the teachers as well. And it sounds like so far it is especially hard. Just even trying to get help, teachers sometimes, and I agree with what Zoe said. Sometimes I'll like send like an email and the work is due like I need it like now, and then the email's like, well, here you go. And I'm like, thanks, but I already had to like wing it and it might not be right now. So it definitely puts students at a disadvantage for learning. And I think that's what we've been bringing to the table, talking about disadvantages of online school. But what are some positives of online school? Because I know positives for me is that I get like a 15 extra minutes of sleep. And when I tell you when I used to wake up, be like, oh, 5 more minutes, that extra 15 most definitely does help me.
Honestly, same. That is like one of my pros is being able to have like your own schedule and whatnot. I mean, granted, my school wants us to like work at the same time as the in-person students because we have a hybrid method. But at the same time, I still can work on my own hours. So now I can get that extra 5 minutes of sleep, like, ooh, just a little bit more time. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta know how to manage your time, and then you good. Honestly, you good. But that's definitely one of my pros. Also, like I said, I'm an ambivert, so I'm an introvert and an extrovert at the same time. So I kind of like, as much as I do like being around like my friends and whatnot, sometimes I don't like being around certain people all the time and just being around people all the time. So it was kind of nice to like have some time to myself and stuff like that, and also have time to like be around my family. Cause I feel like when I was attending school and um I feel like when I was attending school and I was in clubs and like doing musicals and whatnot, I feel like I had no time to spend with my family. But now that like I have so much time on my hands, I can spend time with them. I can spend some other time with people I haven't talked to in so long. So that's one thing that I really do like.
Um, for me, I definitely do appreciate the increase in sleep. Although I haven't really been getting to bed that early, so it kind of I just like adjust myself to getting not so very good sleep. But that's okay. And so yeah, I have like zero period PE, and if it was in person, then I would be like doing it at 6 a.m. or something. But now I just get to do it like at 9 in my room, And so I can like put on some music or like listen to a podcast while our teacher watches us do push-ups. Um, and for like music, we got to like learn how to do like mixing. So we're kind of like learning different software and stuff. So I guess we're kind of learning how to do music through like microphones and like our computers, which is interesting in its own way. It's different, but it's interesting thing to learn. So yeah.
So you like actually legitimately get to make music, like with your class. So that means there's a single on the way because, guys, for the viewers out there, Cydni's already dropped a single. So Zoe, I'll let you guys plug everything at the end.
Yeah, for me, I think a positive that I found was, I guess, more time with like myself. Like I felt like I got to understand myself better, like especially like mentally and like spiritually and emotionally. Because I think with me, the way that I work, made part of it made me more productive. Because if I didn't feel like going to school one day, or if I was like really sad, or I just didn't feel like going, and I'd have to, like, a part of me would have to kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say disassociate, but part of me would have to like put that away, like, okay, go to school. And then once you're there, you're kind of a little bit out of that mindset, out of your feelings, and you're just focused on the school day. But when you're at home and you're, on virtual, you never, like, I don't really get that separation between my more emotional side versus like my more productive or like school side. So I think, I don't know, reconciling those two sides of myself and still finding a way to get work done while still like being kind to myself and being sensitive to and being tender with myself has been something that I think it's helped me grow in some ways. Yeah.
I agree with you completely because the thing about me is I'm so emotional to the point if I don't deal with my emotions right then and there, my body's gonna keep telling me, bro, we need to sit down. We need to, because my body's gonna force me to because I'm not that type of person to keep my emotions in. So whenever like there were days where like I would just get up and I would just be in a horrible mood. Like I wouldn't want to look in the mirror. I would be feeling all types of trash. And then you kind of just have to force yourself to like push all that down because you don't want to show that vulnerability to other people. And there were so many times where like I came to school and like I would go sit in my choir teacher's office because I would talk to a lot of stuff with him and we would just talk. But then like as soon as I get out, I gotta put on a happy face like, hey, how are you guys doing? I didn't just cry just now, but like, hey. But now like I'm not in person anymore and I have more time to myself. I can like take the time to really just like sit down and just spend some time with myself and just take care of myself because I feel like when we were doing in person and we were busy with all these things, we weren't taking the time to like be tender and be kind to ourselves and tend to ourselves because we're so quick to tend to other people but not to ourselves. And we need that tender love and care the most. So it definitely helped me grow as a person. Like my confidence has got so much better. I take care of myself way more now and I just feel emotionally healthy than I was like last year. So
I think, ooh, Zoe, go right ahead.
Okay, yeah, that's super real, Cindy. I feel like with sorry, my throat is like okay. I feel like just being able to like sit at like your desk all day and kind of having that like 15-minute break. Sometimes I'll just like lay on the floor and kind of just stare up at the ceiling, which is kind of nice. So I think it's just like getting used to like quiet has been really nice, and like I just like being able to maybe like kind of just not meditate, but kind of just like look around me without being like, okay, I have to get to class. I have like 5 minutes to like do this. So I guess I can like eat breakfast. I can kind of like sip a mug of tea while I'm doing this. So I guess it's kind of like an emphasis on like how are you comfortable when you learn, so you can kind of like wear comfy, I mean you can always wear comfy clothes I guess, but you can kind of like sit in like weird positions and like wear pajama pants and being able to just like just being able to like what's comfortable to you when you're learning, in terms of like how you're physically like taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And I like that what you said, because I think that when I like think back, or like when I was like on like virtual, when I was on the computer all the time, it's like, because when I think about school now, it's like all of these other people and teachers and things that are kind of like implementing the way that I think about that space and about that time. But when I think about like virtual learning, it's all like this like melancholy sense of like self. You know, it's all you, all what you want to drink, where how you want to sit, whether you want to turn your camera on, and it's just, and you know, in your house, your room, your space, and it's just all, you know, it's just, you're just surrounded by so much self, that I think is very like a unique experience, I'd say.
I think that you guys put in great opinions, especially how hard online school, or what you've realized, or what's helped you kind of deal with it. And I personally think, because I'm great at segues, that is a wonderful way to end this episode off on a positive note. So, everyone, thank you for watching. This has been episode 2 of Teen Talks Online School Edition. And before we leave, it would be a crime not to have everyone plug themselves after they gave us so much of their time. So really quickly, you can find us at teenthoughts.teen. Everyone, take it away. Plug yourselves. Let the people know where you are, how they can find you.
So I'm Cydni. I live in Houston, Texas. If you know, you know. I'm 17. I'm also a singer-songwriter. I put out my first song in August. Um, you can find me at Cydni on Instagram. My link tree is in my bio, where you can find all my music. I only have one song. You find my music and whatnot. And yeah, I'll soon be releasing my music. So if you wanna listen to something different, something unique, you know, go find me.
Or maybe somewhere.
Yeah, I can vouch for Cydni's musical talents. You should definitely check her out. You should follow at Plantain Republic and check out our website. It's an artistic activism blog for Black, Indigenous women of color. And there is some cool writing and art up on there now. You should submit your work and just keep up with what we have going on. And yeah.
I'm Zoe, I'm 15. You can follow me at zoe.zerado on Instagram. I'm also part of the Bayanihan Youth Group, which is like part of the youth group of Filipino Advocates for Justice. You can follow it at Bayanihan Youth Group on Instagram, or BYG. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys.
All right, and if just in case you guys missed that when they're explaining it, we will put it down in the bio below, because we have to let you find these beautiful people. What are you doing? So with that being said, bye guys.